Hello, you guys. How you guys doing tonight? I got some information we're going to go over first. Before we take any calls, I want to go over this affidavit and talk about everything. This is just ridiculous. The inside and the outside of it, through. No matter what you do, this is beyond ridiculous of what they really. All right, it's out. It's out now. We're trying to find out what it means. The FBI affidavit that was used to get the search warrant for former President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago is now made public. But it's heavily redacted. All 38 pages of it. So heavily redacted, sometimes it's hard to, even make out what's in there. We're getting a sense, though, as it does a great idea of the scope of the investigation and the classified records that were reportedly held there, including some that were labeled top secret. Let's get some of that information we're gleaning from all of this. Well, we're getting a picture about how this all began. Start of the particular redacted affidavit from the DOJ, the way the DOJ made it the case to obtain the search warrant, ultimately the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and obtaining documents. In fact, in the first place, it started this in January when the president's National Archives received 15 boxes from the former president's office. The National Archives found in these boxes, mixed in with other records, classified information that they tipped off the FBI, which started an investigation to figure out how classified information was left in the White House, or left the White House with the former president. So then they made a case to the judge that because of that, they think that there is a probability to believe that more documents are containing classified information were at the premises at Mar-a-Lago. Interestingly, we're also getting some identification that the reports that there has been a Mar-a-Lago or mole at Mar-a-Lago that has been cooperating with the FBI's investigation. And this document, it does mention intelligence information derived from clandestine humans. Sources commonly referred to as human intelligence. It doesn't go farther than just defining what that is. There's a lot of blacked out in this. Just to give you a perspective, under the probable cause portion that they make the case where documents containing classified information and the president and presidential records at Mar-a-Lago, this is the reasoning that they're spelling out blacked out information. I mean, they're just trying to hide it. So that's essentially what we're working with. We're trying to get an idea of what the probable cause was. Perhaps there's information from the informants. There's obviously information the FBI gleaned from their investigation to back this up. But I want to know, to what end? with this when it comes towards the end of this affidavit. They talk about the request for sealing it. They say they believe that the sealed document at the time was necessary, and the items and the information seized are relevant to an ongoing investigation. They also think, quote, the premature disclosure of the contents of this affidavit and the related documents may have a significant negative impact on continuing investigation, as it may severely jeopardize its effectiveness by allowing criminal parties and opportunities to flee and destroy. But this is ridiculous because Trump had a standing order already to declassify documents that left the White House. And these left the White House when he was a sitting president still. Of course, the change of the pattern of behavior, notifying criminal Confederates. So we're digging through this, as you see. A lot of it is blacked out. But we're doing at least the general idea of how how it all started. So now we're trying to look for the rationality of the FBI raid. What was behind it? What did they present to Reinhardt to make him say, all right, you're right, let's go forward? The raid essentially, and we're told that a lot of uncertain fear that the former president had documents that he shouldn't have had at his home, right? And 15 boxes of those included the number of top secret documents. I believe it was 25 of them. Now President Trump has said that, he can declassify things as he did, which we've already talked about so many times before. Do we know anything about whether these documents were among those that he had already declassified? And to hear him tell it as his legal team tells it, there is nothing top secret here. There's nothing untoward going on here, moving away from it. So what's interesting is the sealed document release with a letter from the former president's attorney, where he was making the case to the DOJ back in May, when they were still going through the negotiation period of the National Archives. And the negotiated period with the National Archives, trying to get information from what the former president about what he might still have or what. Still, in this letter, they make the case that any attempt to impose criminal liability on the former president that involves actions with respect to the documents marked classified would be implicate grave constitutional separations of power issues. They also say beyond that, the primary criminal statutes that govern unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents and materials does not apply to the president, because the president can declassify anything without anybody's consent. So you have to leave it to the legal experts here, but it's the kind of hash out. But at least the former president and team of lawyers, they don't think he really is entitled to the following of some of these restriction-related classified information, because he is a former president. So when we talk about top secret, and that seems to be as far as they're going to go, or maybe, what's constitutional or constitutes top secret documents that's warranted this raid. It's not just their top secret. Presidents shouldn't happen. Of course, as we pointed out, he disagreed with their notion, but we don't know what was top secret or so top secret alarming that would be warranted something like this to be pointed out. This is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this, where a former president's home has been searched, raided, the president says ransacked by the FBI. I guess they're just going to leave out with all their redactions. We could tell how many top secret documents were in there exactly. We can't tell you which ones were, right? Yeah, exactly. I'll say this on this point. Just kind of look at it glancing at their way, spelling out some kind of definition that they're using this for a basis for saying probable cause. They do not talk about classified information, saying it may be marked as non-usable for foreign nationals, governments, or U.S. citizens, to indicate information that may not be released in any form to foreign governments or not U.S. citizens without the permission of the originator. Well, first of all, that doesn't apply to presidents. In terms of the nitty-gritty classified information and what it actually means and what it is, we don't have those details of what supposedly he had. And it's probably under the black ink that we print out. So we don't really have details on the aspect of what was actually in those documents, in those 15 boxes, and the additional documents that they were able to retrieve when they raided Mar-a-Lago, obtaining more documents. And there are a lot of documents alluding to, and they've talked about the box containing 184 unique documents bearing classification marks or markings, including what appear to be handwritten notes, also by Donald Trump, as well as his personal documents between him and his lawyers. I'm no lawyer, but that information is not top secret or not classified, and the government has no right to it. Right now, they're just detailing a lot of super high intelligence stuff, trying to, super top secret stuff, that they wanted to get our hands on because Donald Trump shouldn't have it at his home, according to them. I think what it means is we're coming down to it. They're frustrated, and they're going to do anything. So what is top secret about it that warranted a braid into the home and taking everything you got your little hands on? That's the big question. We just won't know that. Absolutely. I think it's interesting that it's clearly there was a back and forth going on between the National Archives and Trump lawyers and team for several months, trying to figure out to get this information, to get these documents that had reasonable suspicion to believe were on the premises at Mar-a-Lago. But then why was there a breakdown in negotiations for the unlimited or ultimate that led to this, the last resort, the FBI, to barge in and sort through all the stuff, grabbing for themselves instead of being able to request it to get it handed over? And I think it also is important to point out that it's clear that former President Trump was willing to hand over documents. I mean, he gave them 15 boxes in January. So where does this stand? That's the big question of where we're going to end up with this and what's going to happen next. Because as people are looking at this, seeing that the FBI didn't care, they redacted this document, this affidavit, so ridiculously that the 38 pages that are there might be a total of 3 pages of actually legible text. So what's underneath that text? And what do we not know? Because we know the president has already said that he had a standing order to declassify anything that was leaving the White House, and those documents left the White House when he was still sitting president. He didn't leave presidency until 11:47 that day on the 20th, which those documents already were at Mar-a-Lago at that time. So the big question is any of it still classified, or was it any of it classified at that time? And that's just another question, because the sitting president can declassify anything he wants, according to congressional law. That leads to a lot more questions than answers. And that's just the beginning. I think this is an attack on the Republican part of this country, on the conservative part of this country, a way to keep presidents out of office, or to keep our presidents out of office at this point. But we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen every day. Attacks from the left in every aspect of every part of life. But it's something we're allowing it to happen. As American citizens, we need to stand up and say enough is enough, as this is getting beyond ridiculous. There's a lot. Even looking back at Benghazi, I mean, 13 or Benghazi American citizens killed. And then you got a year ago, today, 13 U.S. service members were killed in Kabul. And the airport attack, the terrorist attack that Biden promised. He promised to hunt down the terrorists who had killed the 13 American service members and injured 18 others, not including the 60 Afghanistans that died and 140 wounded. Where was Biden today on that? Where was our president? Where was he? What did he have to say? I mean, supposedly Kamala Harris said something about honoring those who gave their lives to the service of our nation. We don't even see that. I mean, this is ridiculous, though. Utterly ridiculous. If you guys want to call in and talk about the whole freaking Trump thing, or Afghanistan, Benghazi, what about email servers Hillary had? Any of that? You're more than welcome to take calls tonight. I know a lot's going on. A lot of people are getting unnerved by all this. Just ridiculous. North Dakota, another community fighting to stop a Chinese company from opening a core mill near an Air Force base, a U.S. Air Force base. Is the U.S. government doing anything about it? No. They're not even raising their hands. They're not even tipping their hat and saying, hey, this is a problem. Air Force Base is, of course, not complaining as well. They don't really care. It takes the citizens and the community to fight Chinese companies trying to move in on U.S. territory and move more into U.S. main concerns like corn mill. National security concerns should be a big issue because this is U.S. farmland. Just miles from Grand Forks Air Force Base. Nobody gives a shit. Oh, nobody in the government gives a shit. More than the 300 acres of farmland could soon be home to a massive corn mill owned by a Chinese company. The plans to invest $700 million to open a mill. Of course, the community does not want it whatsoever. State and local officials say the company has ties to Chinese Communist Party, but they're not doing anything about it. It's the citizens that are saying something. I'm not going to say economic development isn't a good thing, but at what cost? The plant would be less than 12 miles from Grand Forks Air Force Base, the home to the top secret drone technology. The community is fighting back. Thousands of signatures have been signed on a petition dealing to vote to sue the city to stop the project. If Biden won't stop the land grabs, somebody has to. At this point, our nation is being compromised inside and out. We know what they did in China or Canada a couple of years ago. They bought farm property and put factories on it and now house military troops and run military drills there. They own the land. What are they to say? This is just ridiculous. More land, and the land that's usually filled with sugar beets and soy beans by three local farmers, that was owned by three local farmers. The property was not for sale when officials said the Chinese company offered to buy the land and spent several $1 million securing the deal and dishing out well over average prices for the land and more than $26,000 per an acre, knowing what they were doing. John, I see your comments. Nobody's comments are not allowed. This is ridiculous, though. Our government is allowing people, crazy people, to bring Chinese, communist China to Grand Forks. I mean, they kill people in communist China, the same company. Concerned citizens, are raising plenty of issues with this, making it all the way to Washington, D.C., where North Dakota Republican Kevin Cramer said that threats of terror or Chinese espionage is very real, but yet nothing is being done. Because they offered him a ridiculous amount of money. And farmers are broke at this point. Meanwhile, we got Chinese and U.S. warships getting closer than ever, keeping an eye on each other. U.S. officials are worried about run-ins that could escalate drastically at this point. Over Taiwan, of course. Close proximity to each other in the Western Pacific and large interactions between the Chinese Naval and Air Force professionals and the U.S. Navy leaders. We're seeing a lot of stuff happening. Recent aggressions by the Chinese forces has U.S. officials worried about more encounters and, of course, increased risk in encounters. Their comments don't show sometimes. Facebook's just being mean. Navy ships operating, of course, U.S. Navy ships operating close to Chinese warships in the Western Pacific, gathering valuable information about Chinese Navy. But U.S. officials are worried that raising tensions could lead to a risky encounter at sea. Just one thing after another. Of course, the Dow plunges more than 1,000 points, loses all its gains for August after sinking more than 1,000 points today, after everybody said the stock market was doing so well and showing the recovery of the nation. Right? It's all gone now. We're down the drain. A single day of trading. Investors are being more keen on the interest rates path, and we're disappointed by the Fed's Chairman Powell signaling that the central bank would keep hiking rates to tame inflation. At the same time, Powell has said that increasing rates will not stop inflation, but of course included raising them anyways. The U.S. economy needs to be a tight monetary policy for some time before inflation is under control. In fact, it means slower growth, weaker job markets, and some pain for households and businesses. Powell said in the prepared remarks for his speech, which is going to kill the country's economy. He doesn't care. In order to tame inflation, he's willing to do anything about it. People should not expect the Feds to dial back anytime soon until the inflation problem is fixed. Feds want to talk tough because they don't want inflation to become an ingrained into the economy. Losing the American dollar value day by day. Losing over 1,000 points today in the Dow just shows how bad it is. It's a sad time. Sad time for American citizens and people to see where we actually are at this point. Russia doesn't think, you think Russia's done being a concern. They stepped up today, moving and concentrating more than 400 planes and 360 helicopters to the border with Ukraine today, moving over that many vehicles just today. I mean, the group of Russian planes near the border are more than 400 combat aircrafts and 360 helos. And more than 150 of the helos are attack helicopters, such as the Ka-52, which has multiple role attack helicopter that can operate in any weather condition. Of course, we just keep sending stuff over there like it's nothing. Our money, of course, we must be the richest country in the world, because even when we're broke, we just print more money to send it to Ukraine at this point. What does that say about our country? What does that say about the way our country feels about its own people? Well, that's for you to decide. As the people of the United States and under our government, I think we should have a say. I really do. You think Russia's going to give into this natural gas crisis this winter? Everybody must be pretty drugged up, because Russia is actually burning off millions of dollars worth of gas every day, making sure it can't be used at this point. It's just sad watching what's happening. Stock market's crumbling, of course. Interest rates going up. And nothing actually getting any better at this point. That's the America we live in. 13 American heroes that were killed in Afghanistan need to be remembered. And the president that is responsible for that needs to be remembered as well for his actions. These brave men are mostly in their early 20 years old or their early 20s. It's sad. Country's wasting away. Till we stand up and take charge, it'll keep going that way, unfortunately. Unsealed affidavits don't mean anything when they're blacked out, and Biden is never going to be held accountable for his actions, just like Hillary was not in the first place. But God bless you guys. I'm going to sign off here. I have a very interesting night tonight. A lot of stuff has happened, so if you guys can afford to donate, please do. We're definitely needing donations. Sorry it was a short show tonight. My grandfather had a fall. He's in the hospital right now, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on with him. That's why I was a little bit late. But God bless you guys. Stay safe. God bless America. And say a prayer for our country. We all need it at this point. Good night.